Conflict. It's part of our everyday lives and it's our human nature to struggle with one another. But as conflict can get physical with the opposite sides fighting, punching, and even using guns, this is the type of conflict is where deaths and suffering occur throughout history and even today. As I was just laying down in my bed, watching a show, a character said, "Conflict, no matter the era." These words made me realize that this statement was indeed correct, even in this world. You see, conflict for many of us is a very common act to resort to. For a lot of us, physically hurting one another feels like the right thing to do for problems that are big and even to the small things. Fighting others is basically getting a ticket for you to get injured, and also it will lead you to bad consequences. Eventually, if it goes too far, it could also lead you to your death. This is the form of conflict that you should be thinking not to do. But then again, conflict is good to resort to, but only when it's really necessary for your defense. Now, I'm guessing mostly every one of us has seen or been in conflict, and you can say that it's pretty easy to start, but then really hard to end. From past experiences and observations, I've seen that most of the time when we're about to fight is when we get annoyed, angry, or even to get ourselves feel satisfied. These emotions that build up in us overtake our brains to make us do what we feel is necessary, determining on how we act in that moment. In my life, plenty of times, I have seen and endured through conflict. When I was younger, I was a boy who had looked innocent. Looking in the inside of me was where you would have seen who I really was. I remember a time when I was just a kid. I had a friend who was over my house. He was one of those people who were pretty annoying and were hard to deal with. At this time, I hated him. Because of that, I got so annoyed at him every time he came over. In this time, however, when he was over my house, we started to fight. It lasted for a while, but eventually I got to the point where I could take no more from him. My thoughts gave me the solution to ending it, and it was to bang his head on a wall. As you can see, due to my emotions, this affected on how I responded to the situation, leaving my friend crying on the couch with a painful head. You can learn from this by reflecting upon yourself on how you've hurt others, and in that time you didn't know or care about how that person felt. Therefore, upon seeing many situations, having control over your emotions, a good sense of judgment, and a good attitude are good steps in reducing physical conflict with one another. From our judgment and our attitude leading into conflict, it will likely end you up in a fight or gets peacefully resolved. Judging the situation and the individual you're conflicting with correctly is a good way to decide on how you might conclude the situation. You see, most of us judge too quickly about others on how they appear physically. This, therefore, is a bad habit that we have, as maybe the person you're about to deal with recently went through a situation that had a bad outcome. Your attitude can also make you realize what is the right thing to do. Every person's attitude towards something is different. Changing your attitude to an attitude that is a friendly and a caring attitude towards others will likely have you see yourself reducing the physical part of conflict in the situation. Therefore, even though you maybe feel so mad at someone, you still wouldn't have a go at them until it's really necessary. Therefore, every person can change no matter who they are. If you have recently fought with someone, or you're a person who starts it all the time, reflect upon yourself to those moments where you've brought tragedy to one another. Putting these ideas into use can see the communities that we live in change and shape it to be a better and a safer environment. Remember this, before you go to use your fists at someone, consider how you will benefit from what you're about to do, both personally and publicly, and most importantly, how will it benefit the person you're about to conflict with. And lastly, make sure you don't let your emotions take control on how you act.